Hello, everyone. It's Chelsea Angelella back for another Read and Ramble session. Today, I am featuring one of the pioneers of mind-body medicine, neuroplastic medicine, the late Dr. John Sarno. And I am going to be reading a little bit, just to give you a taste, of healing back pain. So if you're familiar with mind-body medicine, neuroplastic medicine, you hopefully already know about Dr. John Sarno. If not, you're in for a treat. Who is Dr. John Sarno? Well, he is who I and many others consider, I would say, the modern pioneer of mind-body neuroplastic medicine. He worked primarily with back pain patients at NYU, and he started realizing that there were more to these back pain patients than what was seen on the scans. And he's completely revolutionized the way we look at back pain and many other chronic symptoms. So I'm going to read you a little bit from chapter 1 to give you an idea of what is to come in this book. If you have not read Dr. Sarno and you are suffering from chronic symptoms, you got to check him out, okay? Especially if you have back pain. Now, this is healing back pain. He has other books, The Divided Mind, The Mind-Body Prescription, which I might feature in later episodes, but Dr. John Sarno is the man. So, I came across Dr. Sarno, it was probably like a month in, maybe, to my mind-body healing, like my official mind-body healing journey. If you know my story, also, I don't know if there's going to be, if it's going to appear that there's a lag on my voice and my movements. I don't know. I had this issue earlier with Google. I don't know. Something is funky with Google. I don't know what's going on with it. And yeah, it's not, I don't know. Google's been doing the most sometimes because I record this on Google Meet. Okay, enough of that. Told you, you're always going to get the raw, unfiltered everything here. So where was I? If you know my story, I had been utilizing mind-body tools for a while, and I didn't realize it. And that's how I got to this point of managing my symptoms and living a seemingly normal life, even though I had symptoms. And then I came across the science. So when I talk about healing, the first key is education, because that's what changed things for me, is once I understood the science of what was happening. So I actually discovered the first book I read, for those who are curious, because this is how I found out about the science and this approach to healing, was through books. I didn't know about YouTube channels, podcasts, forums online, Facebook groups. Like, I didn't know any of that existed until after. So all I had were these books that I stumbled across. So the first book I read was The Way Out. The second book I read was The Great Pain Deception. And I haven't featured those books yet either. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get to those too. So in The Great Pain Deception, Steve referenced Sarno. And I had to read his books, obviously, because I'm an obsessive person, perfectionist. I have to know all the things about everything. So I went to the resource section of, I was just looking to see if that book was easily accessible, but the resource section of that book, and I looked at the books that he referenced about Dr. John Sarno, and I bought them. That's when I read Healing Back Pain. So here you go. Chapter 1, The Manifestations of TMS. If you're not familiar with TMS, TMS is Dr. John Sarno's theory of Tension Myositis Syndrome, later termed Tension Myoneural Syndrome. Now that science has evolved and we have actually studied the mind-body connection, current pioneers, people who are moving this movement forward, this mind-body movement forward, are using the term neuroplastic symptoms. So, back to chapter 1, the manifestations of TMS. I have never seen a patient, and for your reference, this book was written in 1991. The first edition came out in February of 1991, just for reference here. So I have never seen a patient with pain in the neck, shoulders, back, or buttocks who didn't believe that the pain was due to an injury, a hurt brought on by some physical activity. I hurt myself while running, playing basketball, tennis, bowling. The pain started after I lifted my little girl, or when I tried to open a stuck window. 10 years ago, I was involved in a hit and run from behind auto accident, and I have had recurrent back pain ever since. What about, this isn't in the book, this is me. What about bending over? Have you ever hurt your back bending over? Or I just went to pick something up and my back went out. Okay? These types of things is what he's talking about. The idea that pain means injury or damage is deeply ingrained in the American consciousness. So I had to think about that for myself. I'm like, yeah, pain has always meant something is wrong to me. So if you watch my other videos, I talk about this. As I'm reading this, I really encourage you to let go of any differences you come across and really focus on how you can relate to the words that Dr. John Sarno is saying here. Okay, so I can relate to that. That the idea that pain means injury or damage is deeply ingrained in the American consciousness. That's what I thought. I thought pain means something's wrong, right? Of course, if the pain starts while one is engaged in a physical activity, it's difficult not to attribute the pain to the activity. As we shall see later, that is often deceiving. But this pervasive concept of the vulnerability of the back, of ease of injury, is nothing less than a medical catastrophe for the American public, which now has an army of semi-disabled men and women whose lives are significantly restricted by the fear of doing further damage or bringing on the dreaded pain again. I was always afraid when I was in pain, if I do this activity or if I do that, I am going to feel worse. Does that sound familiar at all? One often hears, I'm afraid of hurting myself again, so I'm going to be very careful of what I do. In good faith, this idea has been fostered by the medical profession and other healers for years. So this is something that I talk about. Most people, I believe, most practitioners are trying to do good and they want to help you. And so this spoke to me. In good faith, this idea has been fostered by the medical profession and other healers for years. If we knew better, we would do better. That's my hope. So part of what I strive to do and why I'm so deeply grateful for and involved with the Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms is I want this to be common knowledge for everyone on the planet, especially medical professionals. I want everyone to have access to this new science that we have. And thank you, Dr. John Sarno, for taking the time to put years of evidence into a book so that people coming after him could take the time and energy to study this and get the science-backed evidence to prove what you presented. I think I was talking to Dr. John Sarno when I started that. So thank you, Dr. John Sarno. Okay. It has been assumed that neck, shoulder, back, and buttock pain is due to injury or disease of the spine and associated structures or incompetence of muscles and ligaments surrounding these structures without scientific validation of these diagnostic concepts. Does that sound familiar at all? Have you ever heard that pain is associated due to disease of the spine, the structure of the spine, weak muscles or ligaments? Have you ever heard that? Just curious. On the other hand, I have had gratifying success in the treatment of these disorders for 17 years based on a very different diagnosis. It has been my observation that the majority of these pain syndromes are the result of a condition in the muscles, nerves, tendons, and ligaments brought on by tension. And the point has been proven by the very high rate of success achieved with a treatment program that is simple, rapid, and thorough. Medicine's preoccupation with the spine draws on fundamental medical philosophy and training. Modern medicine has been primarily mechanical and structural in orientation. Remember, the mind and the body are separated, and they were studied separately a few hundred years ago. Okay, so when we are looking at pain, we are associating it with the physical body. Okay, that is what people in medical school, these professionals have been taught because they were studying the body, the physical body. So of course, if there's pain in the physical body, why wouldn't we look at the physical body? Makes sense, right? So that's what he's talking about here. Like, this is what the medical philosophy and training was about. The body is viewed as an exceedingly complex machine, and illness as a malfunction in the machine, brought about by infection, trauma, inherited defects, degeneration, and of course, cancer. At the same time, medical science has had a love affair with the laboratory, believing that nothing is valid unless it can be demonstrated in that arena. No one would dispute the essential role the laboratory has played in medical progress. Witness penicillin and insulin, for example. Unfortunately, some things are difficult to study in the laboratory. And this is what Sarno discovered himself. One of these is the mind and its organ, the brain. The emotions do not lend themselves to test tube experiments and measurement, and so modern medical science has chosen to ignore them. Buttressed by the conviction that emotions have little to do with health and illness anyway. Hence, the majority of practicing physicians do not consider that emotions play a significant role in causing physical disorders, though many would acknowledge that they might aggravate a physically caused illness. Have you ever heard, well, stress makes it worse? You know, you really need to manage your stress and your pain's going to get better, or your anxiety is going to go away. You just need to manage your stress. It's stress, stress, stress. So everyone is talking about stress influencing an existing condition, but no one talks about the emotional experience actually being the cause of the condition. Have you ever heard that? These are the things that I started really peeling back when I was reading this book. And the books before this and the books that came after this. What was I taught? I really had to look at that for myself. What was I told? What were the things I heard from physicians? And ask myself, could it be? Because all these people tried to help me, but they didn't actually help me. I mean, they might have, some of these people might have helped me to a degree, but I still had symptoms. I was still going back to the doctor and being referred to other specialists and developing new symptoms. So maybe there's more to the story. Maybe there is. Because it never made sense to me. Like, why am I such a sick person? How come other people just walk around and have normal lives and I just have something going on all the time? Maybe there's more to the story. In general, physicians feel uncomfortable in dealing with a problem that is related to the emotions. They tend to make a sharp division between the things of the mind and the things of the body. and only feel comfortable with the latter. How much time has your doctor actually sat and gotten to know you in your life? You know, what's going on at home? What might be stressing you out, causing you to feel overwhelmed? Are you in an unhappy marriage? Do you have a toxic work environment? Do you feel like you can't be your authentic self? You're masking, you're pretending to be someone you're not. Maybe you have a bunch of secrets. Does your doctor ever talk to you about any of that kind of stuff? Most likely not. And that's the stuff that Dr. John Sarno started talking to his patients about. He really wanted to understand, why are some of these back pain patients not getting better? And he's going to talk about that more in this book. And I really encourage you, pick it up, get yourself a copy, listen to the audiobook, Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time on Read Ramble. See ya.